Yeah, Zach, we can go ahead and get started. We're recording anyway, so just welcome everybody. So glad that you're here today. I was saying just a few minutes ago that we have a few new schools that have joined just in the last couple of weeks. And then since our last meeting, a few more. So we're delighted to have you as part of the Collegiate Training Initiative program. When this program started in April of 2020, it was really focused on workforce development. And we tried to mimic the air traffic CTI, and we found out quickly, wait, it's not all in aviation. We have, programs within agriculture, GIS, filmography, videography, public safety, even in continuing education. So we just, the requirements that we set initially, we kind of eased up on, and we are so happy we did that because we're meeting Congress's desire, which was workforce development, and we've seen that by the numbers. So we're over 100. We plan to hit 200 by the end of 2023. It's a big and ambitious goal, but like I said, a lot's been going on lately. Fortunately, Alina and I we've got more people with us because for the longest, it was truly just she and I. And so the ones that have come in, I think Venus is on, Jose, we've got Kamisha, Danny Hart. They've just added so much to our group, and you'll be hopefully getting more information pushed out to you. We plan to enhance the NCAT site. Would love for you all to get in there and use that more often. But we'll talk more about that later. So I'm Diana Robinson. For those of you who are with us for the first time, Zach Nicklin from NCAT, the National Center for Autonomous Technologies, they host our UAS CTI repository. And then Alina George is in the meeting as well. She's waving at you. And truly, she and I have been with this program since the beginning, and our administrators. So if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us or any of us for that matter. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So today we have, Alina's going to tell us about Drone Safety Day, and then regional editions. Someone already had a question early on about they heard we have one coming up in Eastern region that we're super pumped about. And then we have 3 or 4 more that we plan to visit this year. We also have Vernon Schertz, who's with AUVSI, and he's going to talk about the Trusted Operator Program. Luann Cormier is actually, she works with drone competitions, robotics competitions, and is going to share with us. We just felt like this was a really important and also very interesting topic, because those of you schools that maybe work with high schools and such for those competitions, and other drone academies and such, I mean, what a great way to recruit for your schools, right? It just, one program will feed into another. So really happy to have both of them. And then Al Bruner, he's with us in the FAA. If you're at Central Region droning on, he was there. And he has all the answers to everything you could ever want to know about community-based organizations, CBOs. And that's why I pushed that message out yesterday to everyone about, looking at the video when Kevin Morris, who's with our communications group, he had a big presentation back in November, if you recall. And he also tackled a little bit about FRIAs, which Al can also share about. And then we're going to talk about what's next, projects, events. And then we'll have an opportunity for you all to jump in there, ask questions, tell us some thoughts, what you would like to see, future topics. But for now, we're going to hear about Drone Safety Day. Alina, I'm going to pass it off to you. She's, as I've said many a time, partner in crime, but we don't commit crimes, but we do have a really great time when we're together. And she and I've got to travel quite a bit this year, and got to meet a lot of you. So Alina. You're on mute. There
Am I sharing my slides, or are they already in? I will share them. Okay.
Oh, you can't hear me. I've got them right here. I'm bringing them up now.
Oh, excellent. I don't have to share them. Wonderful. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good week so far. I know that it has been pretty busy for us on the FAA side. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So let's talk first and foremost about Drone Safety Day. You all had a lot of feedback from us, and I want you to know that we heard you. So Drone Safety Day this year is going to be Saturday, April 29th, 2023. So we've got a couple of months still, and it is, as you can tell, it's going to be on Saturday again. We are continuing, of course, to inspire learning, promote safety for drone operations, and encouraging the public to host these events within the 5 focus areas that are the same focus areas that we had last year. So those focus areas are economics, education, environment, equity, and emergencies. And again, you can have these events in person, virtually, or they can be hybrid. And here's the really good news. This is it. This is the date. We are going to move forward on this date every year. So not this particular April 29th. However, it is going to be the last Saturday of every April moving forward. So you can go ahead and put that on your calendars. You can start planning. And this way, everybody knows what's coming up. So we're super, super excited about that, we've got a consistent date moving forward. There will be no more moving around. And I know many of you have requested that we have just the one date. We did it. We heard you. If you go to the next slide, please. All right, so we are actually going to be using the same slogan as last time. A lot of this is evergreen, truly. So fly right, register your drone, interact with others, gain knowledge, have a safety plan, trust, and train. Again, this is US focused. And we can, still talk to, if you've got any international partners, make sure you're letting them know about Drone Safety Day. So anything that you have from last year that is regarding those 5 E's or fly right, you can go ahead and reuse that. We will be updating the graphic so that it will have the new date on there. Which actually I think it's on there right now. So it's great. If you've got any questions, let us know. If you go to the next slide, please. We are pleased to say that this year we are again working with NCAT, that's the National Center for Autonomous Technologies. They are going to be hosting the Drone Safety Day website. So this is where you would go and register your events. We are going to be setting an archive from last year's events, so you will be able to scroll through those as well. Super excited. I can't wait to get everybody's participation. And if you have any questions, please email dronesafetyday@faa.gov. Or if you already have my email, you can go ahead and email me as well. All right, next slide, please. So somebody mentioned droning on and our regional events. So last year, we did 4 different events. We were in the Central region, New England region, Great Lakes region, and the Southern region. Those last 3 we did all in October. So that was a lot, but it was so much fun being able to get out there and talk to the community, being able to answer questions that folks had about rules, regulations, and different processes here at the FAA. We are so excited to continue with these events this year. And the ones that we did last year, we are leaving that up to the regions. And we are already hearing sounds that they want to make this an annual event. So for the regions that we already went to last year, go ahead and be on the lookout for what's coming up next regarding droning on. So this year we are going to the Eastern region. So this is already set in stone. It is April 27th through the 29th. So that's going to be a Thursday through Saturday. And obviously that Saturday is going to coincide with Drone Safety Day. So it's going to be a huge event. We are going to be in Washington, New Jersey at Warren County Community College, which we are so excited about. They are going to help us put on an incredible event. So if you are in the Eastern region at all and you would like to come by, please do. That Saturday is really going to be fantastic. I mean, the whole event is going to be amazing. And that Saturday, we're expecting a lot of people. That QR code, that's where you can go ahead and get in there and register. The other regions that we are planning on hitting this year are going to be our Western Pacific region, our Northwest Mountain, Southwest, and Alaskan region. Alaska has its entire one region just for itself because it is so different from the rest of the lower 48, I believe is how they refer to us. So keep an eye out for all of that. I will say that for those of you who aren't drone pros, go ahead and take a look at becoming a drone pro. And the reason that I'm mentioning this is because I'm going to be presenting again at the Drone Pro webinar that's coming up. I believe it's in February. And I will have more information for you. Again, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to email me or dronesafetyday@faa.gov. And I think that's all I got for you right now. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, Diana put something in the chat and I'm going to go ahead and read that out. We would love any UAS CTI schools to present on the Education Day. So that's going to be the Thursday, April 27th. If you are interested, please reach out. If you haven't heard from us yet, we are definitely going to be reaching out to the UAS CTI schools in that region. So with that, I will let you all move forward.
Thank you, Alina. Next on the agenda, we have Vernon Schertz. He is a highly experienced top level 3 remote pilot and remote pilot instructor. He is an adjunct professor instructor at Embry-Riddle and program manager for the Trusted Operator Program at AUVSI. Vern also specializes in the creation of immersive content utilizing photogrammetry and extended reality technologies. And he is a U.S. Navy submarine vet, which I've already been sending messages back and forth because I used to work with nuclear submarine fellas when I was at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and they were always a lot of fun, and that must be why we just love Vern so much. He's a friend. Alina and I got to meet him at the Experience STEAM event in Minneapolis that was hosted by NCAT. He also set up at the Southern Droning On event, and then I got to see him again at a first flight event, which was held in Washington, North Carolina, and that was after I left Washington, D.C., and now we'll be in Washington, New Jersey. So I just find that really interesting that we have a lot of Washingtons throughout. So Vern, I'm going to pass it off to you. Zach has you queued up, and thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here and given this opportunity to talk about the Trusted Operator Program. So basically, this is a presentation that I give, talks a little bit about TOP, about the reasons why AUVSI decided to create this program several years ago. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, that's not the next slide.
Yep, looks like I had the wrong one. Sorry about that, Vern. 1 second.
Okay. Please stand by.
All right, CBOs, there's so many slides. There we
I
go.
think it's there you go, PDF file.
Okay. Yep. Here we go.
All right, there we go. So real quick, a little bit about AUVSI. So AUVSI is the Association of Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary last year, and it's a nonprofit organization. We're headquartered out of Washington, D.C., and the primary focus of AUVSI is to as our advocacy for policies and regulations that encourage growth and innovation. We also provide education to industry as well as to the public through various different means, including the Trust Operator Program. And we're out there to promote the use of uncrewed technologies and help market growth and provide a number of services to our members when it comes to uncrewed technologies. Okay, next slide. So real quick, yes, I'm a U.S. Navy submarine veteran. I was a nuclear mechanical operator, radiological control specialist, and an instructor. I've been in training and education for over 30 years. One of my specialties is reality capture and extended reality technologies. Certified remote pilot. I started flying UAS commercially in 2014, both multi-rotor and fixed. I'm also an SUAS level 1 certified thermographer, top level 3 remote pilot instructor, and again, I'm an adjunct instructor with Embry-Riddle and the program manager at AUVSI. So next slide, please. So one of the things that I talk about is a culture of safety. And when it comes to drones, it's not too different from what I experienced when I was working in the Navy. So first of all, in the Navy on submarines, it's a hazardous and extreme environments. We're around high value critical infrastructure. There's a lot of mission complexity, but we have highly capable and professional crews, primarily made up of trained high school graduates. And safety is a key to our mission success. Next slide. Nope, not that slide. There we go. So as we know, there's a lot of different use cases for drones, the drone industry. Pretty much what a lot of people do is the commercial photos and videos, cinematography. Dronography is the way I like to refer to it. Doing real estate, residential inspection. And this is sort of on the lower end of that need for safety scale. Granted, you still need to fly safe and have missions, but this is primarily what I think a lot of drone pilots utilize, and TOP can also help with this area as well. Next slide. So one of the areas that's rapidly growing is with infrastructure inspection, whether it's transportation, power generation, communication towers, oil and gas, and also heavy into construction. In fact, the federal government's looking at getting more funding to help fund construction and infrastructure inspection, as well as training in that direction. So we're keeping an eye on that legislation to see where it goes. Next slide. With the there's a lot of increased complexity when it comes to mapping and surveying, for GIS, stockpile analysis and mining, things of that nature. Next slide. One of the other areas that's also starting to expand is use of drones for package delivery. There are several companies in North Carolina that I've been, in fact, one right down the road from me, that is doing different types of package delivery, whether it's consumer goods, food and beverage, or medical supplies. And as we know, agriculture is a big thing, crop monitoring and crop application. Next slide, please. And last, the big area is public safety. More and more law enforcement and firefighting are using drones in their day-to-day operations. And of course, drones play a significant role in search and rescue and in disaster response. Next slide. So as you can see, with uncrewed operations, a lot of these are being performed in hazardous and extreme environments, in and around high-value critical infrastructure, and they continue to increase in their mission complexity. And as this happens, organizations are expanding in size, as well as increasing their capability. Unmanned aerial vehicles, they're utilizing the latest and advanced technology. They're relatively expensive and do require skilled operators. Next slide. Right now, the FAA has two programs: Trust for recreational and hobby and non-commercial use, as well as Part 107 for commercial, public safety, and for government. Next slide. So with Part 107, the remote pilot knowledge requirements, were set at a minimal level when you start looking at the overall needs of industry. There's no practical flight assessment associated with it, no education requirements, and no certification requirements for either equipment or processes. Next slide. So in an industry that's becoming more and more highly complex, how can you ensure a high reliability and safety performance in complex systems? Well, one of the ways you can do that is you can leverage the advanced knowledge and skills and abilities of current experts in UAS operations. Research and develop best practices and protocols for UAS operations, and then create a training and certification program that instill the skills, behaviors, procedures, and illustrate reliable, safe, and professional UAS operations. All of this is a fairly time-consuming process and can be relatively expensive to do. And this is where the Trusted Operator Program comes in. Next slide, please. So several years ago, AUVSI took a look at this and got with the Remote Pilot Council, and they created a series of protocols in order to create a training and certification program. So basically, all the protocols were designed and developed by industry experts for the industry. And the program is designed to increase remote pilots and service providers' reliability, safety, professionalism, and also to help gain trust in the UAS industry. So what is the Trusted Operator Program? Next slide, please. Oh, real quick, forgot I had this in here. Over 1,200, that's actually over 1,500 now. So we have over 1,500 top certificates that have been awarded in 30 countries. Including United States, Canada, Switzerland. The Virginia Tech has their African Drone and Data Academy, and they've issued certificates, and I believe it's more than 23 African nations at this point. I'll have to get with them. But as you can see, TOP's been, it truly is an international training and certification program. We have top training providers on 3 different continents. There are 9 here in North America. We have 1 in Europe, and then, of course, Virginia Tech's ADDA in Africa. Next slide, please. So TOP, there's 2 types of certifications that we have with TOP. First of all, we have certification of individuals, which is remote pilots and remote pilot instructors. And we also have certification of organizations, which is training and service providers. Next slide, please. Our protocol certification manual, which can be downloaded from our website. Basically, all the protocols for each and every single one of the certifications is listed out. There's over 300 established accredited standards, policies, and procedures, and best practices and codes of conduct that's within the protocol certification manual. Some of these standards include FAA regulations, local and state regulations, industry best practices, and a number of them are guidance materials. So the TOP PCM is what we utilize to establish our certification requirements for individuals and organizations to become recognized as safe, competent, and reliable commercial UAS service providers. Next slide. So at the very start, we have top level 1. Top level 1, it would be for pretty much any remote pilot out there operating commercially. This would be out there, whether it's doing real estate, photos, videos, things of that nature. This is where top level 1 really comes into play. Normally, there's no requirement for them to get a waiver from the FAA for anything, and they're operating the smaller, less complex drones that are less than 5 pounds. Next slide, please. So with top level 2, there's a number of increased complexity, elevated risk factors to what they're doing. These are operations where a visual observer would be required, where you would be getting a waiver from the FAA for certain things, whether that's flying at night or possibly beyond visual line of sight. But that's beyond visual line of sight is mainly for level 3. Some of the other things to look at here is if you're doing minor infrastructure inspection, top level 2 would be for that. Power line inspection, out taking a look at power poles, things of that nature. Next slide, please. So with top level 3, this is the most complex level of certification that we have. These are operations that are in very critical and complex areas. Industrial and chemical facilities, offshore oil rigs, things of that nature, infrastructure, power lines, towers, or substations, or if you're doing operations in a hazardous environment on ships, aircraft, with moving vehicles, even underground. So next level, or next slide, please. So one of the things about top is when you go to level 2 and level 3, we actually have practical flight assessments. So we're not only testing the knowledge level and what a service provider or an individual has put together as far as their operations, but we're also assessing their ability to not only fly and maneuver the aircraft, but while utilizing, for example, the NIST open test lane, you're actually taking photos. We're now analyzing your ability to collect data, which is one of the primary reasons all of us are going to be out there flying drones. Next slide, please. There's also a number of functional areas that are in the protocol certification manual for certification. Those are public safety, agriculture, oil and gas industry, as well as infrastructure and utilities. So the PCM is pretty well rounded with all the different requirements and protocols for those different areas. Next slide, please. So again, here's a listing of our training partners that we currently have. One of the things that we're actively doing, especially here in 2023, is our goal is to drastically expand the Trusted Operator Program, be able to bring on more individuals and organizations, and specifically to be reaching out to community colleges and getting the Trusted Operator Program into more education. And next slide. And with that, here's the link to the website, so you can take a look at the Trusted Operator Program. From here, you'll also be able to download the protocol certification manual. With that, I don't know if we want to take questions now, or shall we wait till later?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do a couple questions. Now I think Zach was going to pop in here. Zach?
Yeah, I was going to say we got a couple of questions in the chat around your top training and the integration of NIST in there. There's a few folks who use the BPERP or their BPERP proctors for NIST with the open test lane standard there. And I believe in our conversations, you said that's built into the hands-on portion. Is that correct? The open test lane?
Yes. Well, a number of our training providers have decided to utilize the NIST open test lane for the practical flight assessments in top level 2 and top level 3. I'm also a BPERP proctor with APSA, so very familiar with that. So with top level 2, the practical flight assessment's pretty much the same as what the BPERP's assessment is, where you're only doing the first 2 of the 5 open test lanes. When you take your top level 3, that's when we're utilizing all 5 of those different test standards. Like I said, some of the our training partners, Embry-Riddle, NC State, they're utilizing NIST. There are a few that are still doing it per ASTM. But one of the things that's key about the Trusted Operator Program, we kind of leave it up to the training partners to determine the best way for them to do the practical flight assessments. We will go in and we'll evaluate as long as they're meeting industry standards and all that, then they can, determine what they want to do.
All right, great. And Joe asked, how does the university get qualified as a training partner to credential its students as top certified?
Well, first of all, you contact AUVSI, that would be me. And what I would do is walk you through what the process is, and then we can start making those arrangements. But basically, to become a trusted operator program training provider, you have to be a service provider, at least to service provider level 2. And then the training provider is sort of a functional add-on to being a service provider. One of the things you'll have to have, obviously, is at least 2 remote pilot instructors that are top level 2 certified or higher. But I can walk them through that process when they contact me.
All right, awesome. Question, how long does it take for certification as a training provider to make it onto the directory?
Well, right now we're doing some things internally with AUVSI to streamline some of the processes in order to make it a little quicker and a little bit more efficient. Our goal is to be able to have a training provider basically be able to come on board, within a month, about a month into the whole process.
Thank you. And thanks to David 30acre as well. He's been putting some links to the Embry-Riddle training that's out there for the professional development side in the chat there. So thank you, David, for that. Everett's getting right to the heart of it, and Everett is wondering what the typical costs are for that type of
right now, with part of our restructuring that we're doing with TOP, we're basically still figuring out what that cost for the accreditation process for training providers will be. We're hope to have that pretty much settled within the next couple of months.
All right, do we have any other questions for Vern, either through the chat or
So a couple have asked, like, getting in touch with you, Vern. Would you mind me sharing your email, or would you rather them come through?
Oh yeah, please share my email.
We'll do that. All right. Thank you so much. And I think we'll have time at the end. If there's more questions, we usually kind of open it up for discussion and continue on. So everyone hang on to, if you have more questions, jot them down, and then we'll ask Vern later. We'll go ahead and move to the next presentation. And I actually had the really good fortune of meeting Luann Cormier through Zach Nicklin. He had brought her into a meeting with us, and just her passion and excitement got me excited. She is the senior program manager for the aerial drone competition at the REC Foundation. And she loves to engage with youth and prepare them for careers in the future, especially in the drone industry. So she shares what we all are motivated about, right? She has introduced the aerial drone competition program to thousands of students across the country. And Luann, I think, Zach, do you want to pull her slides up, and we'll have you come in?
Thanks for having me today. I appreciate being here. All right. Well, as Diana did say, my name is Luann Cormier. I am the program support manager for the aerial drone competition. I love the last presentation because at the end of the day, our mission is to get drones in the hands of students so they get excited about all these career opportunities. I mean, that's end of the day what we're all about. So I took lots of notes, and as I talk with educators in middle school and high school, they are all like chomping at the bit and looking for that next piece of excitement and getting their students ready. So that was a great presentation, but thank you. Zach, go to the next slide. So I'm not going to, why are we doing this? Why do we have drones? Like what, I mean, you guys know, if you're on this call, you're already aware of that drones are just becoming more and more a part of our lives every day. And the way that we're using them, I think in 5 years, we'll be using drones in ways that we haven't even thought of. So at the end of the day, we're trying to spark curiosity in aviation, engineering, and coding through the use of drones. So, next slide. So a little bit about the REC Foundation. We are a competitive robotics company. That's our livelihood. We've been doing that for about 12 years. If you're familiar with Vex Robotics, you may have come across the REC Foundation. And we are really about giving the students an opportunity to design, innovate, work part of a team, experience failure in a safe environment, persevere, and become our problem-solving leaders of the future. 4 years ago, we added a drone competition. So we know how to do competitions. We host the largest robotic competition in the world, where we have 800 teams from 40 different countries that show up. And then 4 years ago, we added drone competitions. That was right before the pandemic hit. So year 1 and year 2 were a little kind of wonky. But last year, we finally got the program launched and off of the ground. And then this year, we have doubled in size. So it's really exciting to be a part of this, because we have the backing of the REC Foundation that knows how to run competitions, knows how to engage students, has the knowledge and support system in place to grow exponentially. Next slide. I'll tell you a little bit about, and just skip to, you can skip these slides, Zach, and just go right to the, okay. Not something weird has happened there, but that's okay. So is there a slide on? Okay, so competition teams. What do teams look like? There's no actual set rules as far as what a competition team looks like, but we work with typically 5th graders through high school. And each competition team has their own drone. And it's typically 3 to 5 students on a team. So go ahead and to the next slide. I think it's the one I want. Yeah, this is the one I was looking for. So our competition model is set up so that it's 3 competitions in 1. And this is really important, because not only do we have an environment that we give the students an opportunity to do piloting and teamwork matches, but what we do is we also give them a chance to do programming and show off their programming skills. And we also give our students the opportunity to talk to judges about programming, their logbook, why they do things, talk about the drone and what they've learned. So each one of these pieces, the piloting and teamwork matches, that's the fun and exciting. That's the splash. We take a 28 by 28 field inside a gymnasium or a cafeteria at a school, and we take 4 drones and we put them on the field. And these are co-drones. These are co-drone EDUs, or Parrot Mambos. They're small classroom drones that are codable. And the students fly them around the field and try to work together and against each other to achieve a mission. So you will find that there's 2 red drones trying to do stuff and 2 blue drones trying to do stuff. And meanwhile, they're learning about the flight principles of the drone, right? They're learning that when they fly it close to the ground, it behaves in one way. If they have to maneuver something and they have to hover, they're learning those techniques. But they're also learning the workforce development skills that we need our students to do. They're learning to communicate with each other. So in the pilot teamwork matches, you have 2 red drones working together. They don't know who their partner is going to be until they show up to that event that morning. So they're handed a schedule and they look and they say, well, great, in match 1, I'm partnered up with Diana. Match 2, I'm partnered up with Zach. And they have to go talk to those teams and say, okay, what are my strengths and what are your weaknesses? Who's going to do what on the field? Maybe I'm going to go over here and clear these balls over there, and I'm going to go over here and do this hard landing because I've been practicing that. So it teaches our students to communicate and engage with each other and strategize and make those critical decisions they need to make. They only have 2 minutes. What are they going to choose to do on the field? When something happens, how are they going to react to that and change their strategy midstream? Those are all skills that we're trying to get into our students, but at the same time, teach them that flying a drone is fun. The second part of the competition is the autonomous flight skills. Right? So we want our students to be programming these drones, coding. We know how important that's going to be in the future of drones. So we have them code in Blockly or Python, and they have to code their drone to do certain tasks. So maybe they're flying under an arch gate or through a keyhole gate, or using the downdraft of the drone to maneuver a ball somewhere. but it's really up to the teams. They have to program and see what they can do, and they get points for doing that. And then the third part is judging. We have our students talk with judges. All of you on this panel here would make great judges. I'm going to talk about that. But we ask our students to document their process of what works for them, what didn't work, what were the points of failure, what did they learn about their drone and their drone batteries? Did the drone work well when it was at 100%, but not at 50%? Or, what did they learn about that? And we want them to document that. And we ask them to share that with our judges. So like I said, one thing that's really unique about our competition is we do 3 competitions in one. So it's not just about flying the drones around as fast as you can. It's not just about programming the drone. It's a combination of all of those things, which makes a better student, a better pilot, and somebody ready for the workforce in the future. So next slide. So these are just some of the awards that we give out at events. So we have performance awards, those commonly make sense, right? And then we have judged awards. So we're looking for things like the overall top team. We're looking for the team that's the best systematic approach to planning and to strategizing, who can explain their program the best. And then we have things like Inspire and Judges Awards. So teams are working to earn performance awards based on points and ranking, but we also do some judged awards as well. Okay, next slide. So this is the game video did not come up. So I will go ahead and put that in chat so you guys can check that out a little bit later. Let me grab that for you. Actually, I can do it afterwards. But we do have an entire game manual. And I do encourage you to watch the video because it's really exciting to kind of see the game in action. But why don't we just go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, there's the video popping up. Can you pop that into chat? I don't know if we can play it on this particular setup. Okay, awesome. Zach did post that video into chat. So you guys can check that video out. Let's go ahead to the next slide. We talked a little bit about the judging and the aspects of why we ask our students to keep a competition logbook. And I loved on the previous speaker, they were talking about safety plans and flight logs and analysis, and we encourage our students to do those things. We want them to create a safety plan. Now, obviously, the safety plan with a classroom drone is quite different than the safety plans of some of these larger commercial drones, but it gets them engaged. It gets the students realizing that they need to think about these things. So that's what we're looking for in their competition logbook. Okay, next slide. So our season for competitions runs from October through March. And the game comes out in October. This year, the game is called Blackout. And the whole point of the game is there's 2 parts that we ask our students to do. We ask them to use the downdraft of their drones to maneuver around the field and move balls around. But at the end game, we're asking them to land in an area that the pilots cannot see. So we tell them to use, they have a visual observer on the other side of the field that is helping them navigate the landing. Now, I get that this is not how visual observers are used in the real world per se, but what it does do is it gets them used to communicating with somebody else about where their drone is, how to land. And it's quite exciting to watch them go from screaming and hollering at each other, go left, go right, going the wrong way to try to land on a box, to them starting to realize that drones have orientations and fronts and backs. So they start talking in aviation terms so that the pilots know, if they need to yaw or pitch their drones, up and down using the controllers, because left doesn't mean anything if the drone is faced in the opposite direction. So we do have local qualifying tournaments throughout the country. And then we do have championship events, and those will be happening April through May. And you can see that we have lots of connections. We're working with the JROTC, the National Guard, university, and NASA are all supporting our championship events. So next slide. This is what a typical agenda does look like at a competition. You can kind of see we go through a day. We start with autonomous flights. We go through qualification matches. We go through alliance selection, finals, and awards. And all of those things that I've been talking about is what happens on a typical competition day. And next slide. All right, now, how can we work together, right? So we all have a common mission, right? All of us want to prepare students for careers in drones. What I'm asking you guys to do is look into this program, because there are ways that we can work together to get drones in the hands of the students in our communities, middle school and high school students, creating excitement about the drone careers and opportunities. So one way you guys can help is by volunteering at a local event. You can be a judge or a referee and just talking to students. A lot of times, if you ask the event partners, if you provide a couple of volunteers, could I do a demo? Or could we have a table in exchange for providing a few volunteers? So it's a great way for you to get out in the local communities and target the people who you're really trying to target. These are students who are already flying drones. They have excitement about the pathways. We just need to expose them to the potential opportunities for, technical and college and career opportunities. The second way you guys can help is, and Zach does this, is hosting a competition at your facility. This gets students on your campus, right? We all know the value of having students on your campus. You can do tours and show them all the cool things that you have on campus. You can have your students come and do a demonstration, and that gets students engaged. Again, it's in a way for you to introduce a target market of students, and getting them on your campus and showing them what you have to offer. Most kids, and actually most educators, don't realize all of the opportunities that are out there when it comes to drones right now. We all have our work cut out for us in educating the public on this. So the third way you guys can help is we can work together is by reaching out to local schools. You have connections to schools in your communities. Let's help have them start local teams. Let's get these drones in the hands of students so that they can be part and competing in this. And next slide. So I posted the link of where there are events in your area. Currently, there are 59 events scheduled over the next 9 weekends, and there's a whole list of states there. Many of these may be in your town or in your area. I went through the list of the schools that I knew were part of this group, and I found 6 of them that were on the list where I actually already have events scheduled. So San Diego, Houston, Farmington, Dayton, Wichita, and Thief Rivers, right? So we have all these competitions going on. Come check it out. Come volunteer. See what it is and get the students engaged. Next slide. So here are my links. Zach, are you able to show, since we weren't able to show the video on the presentation, I just want to show them what a field looks like, or the drones that we use. Maybe go to the Co-Drone EDU site so we can talk a little bit about the actual drone. And do you want to share your experience with the program?
Yeah, I definitely plan to. And thank you very much for the presentation, Luann. I can tell you that we have had a blast with this. We first started with this competition actually back in 2019. We seeded a couple of teams around us and hosted a competition at Northland College. It went pretty well. We actually held the first state competition in the state of Minnesota, and so that was a great time. But that was actually, I believe it was January 30th of 2020. So just before the world just kind of fell apart on us. Obviously, teams were not allowed to compete the next year in the local area, and there was just not a lot of appetite for getting back into environments like that right away, at least. And so, where's the Co-Drone EDU? Is that not the?
Yeah, I threw it in I did throw the direct link to RoboLink right in the chat. So there you go.
I can tell you though, as far as interest, we once we started back up, it was a little bit slow. after we started normalizing after COVID. But we have doubled the amount of teams this year and the amount of spectators as well, which was pretty important for us because it is getting folks onto our site. Our first competition, we had like 4 spectators. The second one that we ran this year, we ran out of chairs. We had set out 20, 30 chairs just in hopes that maybe we get some more. We had folks milling around the walls, and it was great because we hosted this out in our hangar. So we are an aviation maintenance school, so we had a bunch of airplanes and some folks that were available to do little tours and things like that. And so it was a great time, and there was a lot of interest. And even in our small little area, there was folks that didn't know we existed out there as far as our aviation maintenance and UAS side. And so they got to see firsthand, and it's, like I said, it's been great.
Thank you, Zach. That was a great testimonial. Zach, can you go to the link the second link I put that is to our webpage? It shows like a little video of the drone, and it's kind of a live video, and you can have that while I'm answering questions. So, right. Does anybody have questions about the program or how it might benefit you?
So Luann, if you don't mind, I'd like to get Al on and then hang around because we have until, we got a good another 30 minutes. If you don't mind, that'd be great. And we'll definitely continue the conversation. This is amazing. What both presentations, we just really appreciate having you both here with us today. But yeah, I think I've mentioned before, I actually got to judge a robotics and drone competition. It was small scale, but the excitement and the kids, I mean, they're, the young people are just so, they're learning, and the competition, they're just having so much fun. All right. So Zach, I'm going to, there we go. If you'll pull up Al Bruner, I mentioned earlier, he actually joined us. We got to meet him in person at the Central Region Droning On. He's our expert extraordinaire for the CBO process. There's always questions. And I did that, I'd sent the video that Kevin Morris, when he presented to the consortium, which is the 2-year and technical colleges, along with industry and others that participate in that. But I wanted everyone to be able to see that presentation, maybe to prompt you for questions, but I'm sure you'll have them anyway. So Al, I'm going to pass it off to you. You're welcome to share about yourself with the group.
Oh, okay. A little bit of background on me. I'm a retired Air Force guy. I did do some UAS work for the Air Force, mainly in the aerial targets world. And once I was retired from there, I pretty much went straight into the FAA for doing drone work. I'm an aviation safety inspector, and I've been doing that since I was hired back in 2010. So that's all I've done since that time is try to integrate drones into the National Airspace System for the FAA. So that's just a quick short thing about me. Other than that, I will say I'm a Texas Aggie. So for you colleges out there, let's just level set the playing field there. Next slide, please, Zach. So to begin with, let's ask a very important self-reflecting question. Next one, please. What is it that you really, really, really want to do with drones? I mean, what is the purpose for you of using your drones? All right. I'm going to go out on a limb and make an assumption. Next one. It's to basically educate folks and do classwork with these drones, whether it's the actual teaching of the aerodynamics of drones, or whether it's using them as a tool in some other field for work or what have you. But that's the ultimate goal, I would imagine, for what you're doing. Next one there, Zach. So then, does your school or institution of higher learning really need to be a CBO? Next one. And the simple answer is no, you don't. You can go out and fly right now and execute that mission without having to be a CBO. There is nothing stopping you at the present moment. And we'll talk more about that. So next slide, please. So why do you say that? Well, you got to remember what this little thing called the law 44809 talks about. And the recreational purpose is equal to and the same as, and Congress says it is, for us at any rate, that it's a recreational purpose that fulfills the requirement of 44.809. And that's basically the use by a higher education for classwork or research purposes, or they consider an educational purpose if you're a JROTC using it for educational or research purposes, or if you're a school that just happens to be chartered by a recognized CBO. Guess what? CTIs are Ichiban. You are the first one there, so you get already into the recognized, or excuse me, the recreational pool automatically. So now your life is simple. All you have to do is find a recognized CBO set of safety guidelines and go out and fly, and you're off to the races. And you can use it in your classwork or however you else want to use it, following those particular guidelines, as well as the rest of 44.809 paragraph A. Next slide, please, Zach. So if you're really interested in what we do in terms of how we recognize CBOs or anything like that, pretty straightforward. We got to follow the law, and it's codified right there in paragraph H. Next slide, or next item there. You got to be a 501c3 as described, okay? So there's something, it's pretty broad actually if you go in there and read it, but education is among those. There's some things that probably don't qualify under 501c3, but it's still pretty broad. So that one's pretty easy to get over. Next one is, go ahead, Zach. Yeah, you must be tax exempt. A lot of folks just put in an EIN number and they think if they've got an EIN number, they're tax exempt. Well, that just ain't so. An EIN number is nothing more than an IRS tax employee identification number is what it stands for. And they even, when they issue that, they say, oh, this doesn't give you tax exempt status. If you want that, here's this form to fill out and go do that. Okay, so that's pretty much straightforward. And these are kind of what I call straightforward clean kills. If you haven't got these, you know, you can't pass go, can't collect $200, go directly to jail pretty much. Next, and this is a biggie. Mission is demonstrably in the furtherance of model aviation, not anything else, not what you think you may want, but that. Believe it or not, we've had police departments apply, we've had fire departments apply to be CBOs, we've even had a prison apply to be a CBO. Now, how can they be in demonstrably in furtherance of model aviation? I don't know, but they couldn't even begin to make a safety case, in my opinion. So next one. Comprehensive set of safety guidelines. This one is actually somewhat easy because all you got to do is go to AC 9157 Charlie, and we give you a nice big comprehensive laundry list of things that a safety set of guidelines should kind of look like. And if you can meet most or all of those, you should be pretty well suited to be recognized as a CBO. But remember, just as a school itself, you know, don't necessarily need to right now. Next one. And one more. Both of these are related. You got to support your local clubs or affiliates or other organizations. And it does say any, and that includes with the development of local flying fields and things like that. So you got to have some idea of where you're going to fly or how you're going to coach those folks that you're trying to say, yeah, go out and fly, what a flying field should look like, okay? So that's what the law says. There's those 6 things that we're focused in on for any CBO applicant to meet. Next one. Now, schools generally can't really meet that because your job is not model aviation. It's to teach, it's to educate, okay? So that becomes problematic. But again, that doesn't hamper you from doing what you need to do, all right? Or want to do for that matter. About the only way that a school, and it wouldn't be the school per se, could possibly be a CBO is if you had a model airplane club that is an extracurricular activity apply to be a CBO. And then I'm not sure how that would work in terms of you using theirs. I guess you could, you know, figure out how that would be leveraging your schoolwork and yet their extracurricular activities. So it's just a thought, but I don't know that you need to go to that trouble at this point. Next one. And believe it or not, a lot of people say, well, how come everybody's getting denied? Well, bottom line is that a lot of folks just aren't meeting the requirements. As I mentioned, 3 is a big tripping one. 2 is a big tripping one. Well, the problem is that half the time they don't even submit anything. They just submit that they have a tax EIN number and say, hey, pick me, please. And that's it. They don't give me any kind of tax exempt number. They don't give me how they are even remotely related to recreational activity, no comprehensive guidelines, no support for local clubs or anything else, or any kind of field criteria. So they're pretty much shot. So it's pretty easy to do. So how do you avoid all this? One simple step. Next one, Zach, and here it is, folks. Read the AC. You know what? And if folks might actually read the AC, they might be able to get recognized. What a concept, you know, we let everybody know this right up front. In there, it lays out the law that I just already laid out to you, and it lays out all those wonderful things that a CBO should have in its safety set of guidelines. So next slide, please. That's it in a nutshell, folks. Go read the AC, and it's in English, believe it or not. And I helped write it, and Aggie helped write it. So it's got to be pretty simple. All right. So remember, you don't need to be a CBO to go do what you need to do. Go do it right now, live happy, and get those folks educated as you need to. There's 4 CBOs that are recognized. They're on our website. Happy to answer any questions, Diana. Short and sweet.
Well, we see this was very helpful. So yay. So Al, that was a good presentation. We really appreciate you being with us. I hope that was a clear understanding for everyone. So Joe Burgett is asking, how long does it normally take for a FRIA application submitted through the drone zone to be approved? And there may be others actually in the call who have an answer to that as well.
I'll hit both sides of the coin here.
Awesome.
FRIAs and fixed sites. Okay. Fixed sites are those that are associated with a CBO usually, or any person can, basically to fly inside of controlled airspace as it is now with the law. It has to be in controlled airspace. What the fixed site can allow you to do is fly above 400 feet in that controlled airspace. And it can also be allowing you to fly over 55-pound aircraft in that particular space. So that's what it does for you. And it does have altitudes and all that. FRIA, different thing altogether. They can be in the same set of locations, if it were, but basically that's just to fly without a remote ID. Okay. Both of those processes are being developed in Drone Zone and getting worked out. And the behind the scenes part of the Drone Zone is also getting worked out, specifically with the FRIAs. There's a lot of little tricks and nuances to that, like environmental concerns and things like that, that they're grappling with. So I can't tell you how long that process is going to be or how long it will take you. Well, I know that you don't have to worry about it for now because we've got until September to worry about that. Okay, so that's the good news for us and for you, that we can get all our stuff figured out exactly how we're going to do this and be able to cope with the numerous FRIAs and perhaps fixed sites that come up. And then we'll see what happens with the reauthorization and see if some of the 44809 things might get tweaked or fixed with FRIAs and fixed sites and some other things as well. So there's a lot of variables still in play yet. Now, that's a very vague answer to your question, but that's the best I got.
Dr. Corns, please, unmute and jump in there. And same for anyone else. If you have a question, you're absolutely more than welcome to just ask.
Yeah, so regarding FRIAs, so let's say that as a university, we apply for a FRIA at university property, and it's approved and everything. Now, from my understanding, the FAA is going to publish those FRIAs. Is that correct?
Maybe. The same problem is they probably will be published, but they may not be put on the the facility grid maps is what I call them, but it's a UDDS, and I can't remember what it stands for. Unmanned Aircraft Data Display System. Is that right? Something like that. Okay. I'm not sure that'll be displayed there, but a list will probably be provided for those. I don't know in what form or anything like that at this particular point. So,
so the
and certainly
concern-
charting on maps like sectionals and things like that is a whole nother ball of wax that will probably not ever happen.
Yeah, the concern is, so somebody's on this site or whatever and goes, oh, MTSU has a FRIA on campus. And they go, let me go grab my drone and go fly. Now we do have an MTSU policy. So is there any way to limit, if we create a FRIA for educational use, for if we have aircraft that the students build that are not remote ID, is there a way to limit the public just from showing up?
Yes, and here it is. And this is very, very important because this not only applies to FRIAs, but fixed sites as well. You got to realize that fixed sites only to so much. For a FRIA, for you to be able to fly in a FRIA without a remote ID, not only must the drone be inside the boundaries of the FRIA, but also the person, okay? Fixed site, person does not have to be inside the fixed site to be flying inside the drone must be, all right? However, there's a nice little thing called trespassing laws and access and private access. So that is outside my purview, but I hear that those laws exist and they have been enforced. So guess what? Proceed with caution, folks. You still have to obey all state and local laws, and we usually require that of CBOs as well.
And Al, if I may expound on your part there, having had some background dealing with universities and other entities who have raised the question to our office when I was an aviation safety inspector at the Little Rock FSDO. And by the way, I'm on the AFS 830 waiver team with the FAA, work closely with Al on some of the CBO aspects as well, and have got for about 15 years of experience as an inspector at a local FSDO. So I'm able to speak from both sides of the UAS aspect, from waivers, et cetera, to actually doing investigations and community outreach and support with universities in particular. But one of the things we encountered with a local university was they had a complaint regarding an individual flying a drone over their campus, and they tried to get him for trespass, at which point they quickly realized that there was no premise to do that, since one, the drone wasn't on their property, it didn't land or take off from their property, and the operator was not on their property. And that is essentially where, when it comes to the aviation aspect of trespass, individuals and entities need to realize that they do not own the airspace. So if an individual wanted to fly a drone and he is over your campus, there's really very little the university can do other than file a civil complaint with local law enforcement, who would then view that as any type of other potential trespass intrusion. They would soon discover there's nothing they can do about it. They would then turn it over to the FAA, who would investigate for the premise of any type of regulatory violation, such as airspace, which is a big topic that Al has been addressing, and manner of operation to include any type of careless or reckless operation. So, and that goes not just for universities, but private individuals. We've all heard about the individual wanting to shoot down a drone. That individual will be in more trouble than the individual actually flying the drone. So just because it's your property doesn't mean that you can prevent somebody from crossing that airspace. Thank you.
And I
Thank you,
kind of have
Mike. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Corns.
Yeah, and I do have another question that has popped up, and I want to see if the group has experienced this yet, but it has to do with blue list drones. So yeah, I see Michael's over there. He probably knows exactly what I said. So I was working with our chemistry department on an EPA grant to monitor methane. Part of the grant was that if we purchase a drone, it has to be from the blue list, from the approved blue list. Talking to a manufacturer, when I said, is this remote ID, capable? The answer was no, and it will not be, because the reason is for the DIU to certify it for blue list, it can't communicate anywhere outside. It can't connect to anything. So my response was, can I put a module on it and fly it? And the answer was, as soon as we put a remote ID module on it, it is no longer blue list.
What is a
So-
blue list? If you help me out here, I'm not familiar with that vernacular.
Oh, so the government has come down through the Defense Innovation Unit. So
Okay, got
it's, yeah, so we're kind of in a catch-22 now, because I'm also working with the state, and they've been directed by the governor only to use blue list drones. But if they comply in September, when remote ID happens, is technically they will not be able to put a remote ID module and fly in air, in the NAS.
Right. For what it's worth, I don't know who owns that blue list. I certainly don't govern that. Nor do I think the FAA do. However, I will say that it makes perfect sense to me that if I put a US made remote ID module on top of a US made drone, that it would seem to be complying, but whoever this blue list people is who controls that, that needs to be brought to their attention that remote ID is coming. Whether they like it or not. So I don't know how they adjudicate that. So
Yeah, I think that's worth exploring further. And, we'll definitely follow that. And I see that Michael just came off of his mic. They're dealing with in Florida a state statute for those blue list drones, right, Michael?
The problem with the blue list is, and I've had a conversation with a guy that that was in charge of the program. The way the blue list came about was that they had a specific requirement for our Army request for UAS systems. They did specific testing to meet that requirement, and it met those 5 original systems met the requirements set forth in that request for proposal. It was never intended, in talking to the guys that made the list, for it to be a guide for everybody else. They put this out as, these systems meet the requirements for this proposal. And if you as kind of a gee whiz thing, they put it out and said, hey, these meet the security requirements. Well, since then, states like Florida went in and kind of looking at data security, cybersecurity, and said, you know what, we can't have any Chinese drones flying over infrastructure, things like that. So they went forward and produced this Florida statute that we're dealing with in Florida right now, and then which got pretty restrictive. And then Florida DMS put out the list, and they took the original 5 from the original blue list, one of which no longer exists anymore. Altiman has been bought out by FLIR because it's not FLIR, you can't use it. So now Florida's going through several rewrites of an administrative code on cybersecurity. So, and what it's going to do. And so there's a lot of issues with that. But the blue list was never really intended, from in my conversation with them, on actually how it was going to be working that way.
And I asked Zach to rudely interrupt by posting or what's next, because this truly is a conversation that could go on for, hours, days. And we'll go right back to it. Those of you that want to stay on, we'll do that. Melina posted that list as well. But let's go ahead and talk about what's next, because we have a request. I know that one of the last meetings I had commented that we're going to continue with that job classification project. Those of you that are new, we were successfully able to modify 5 job classifications. Our very first meeting, there was like 30 schools, 35. That was a concern, is the lack of job data. And we all know how important that is to your programs. So we're going to continue with that, not only modifying, but, creating those new job classifications as we, technology's just forever changing. And many of you, a few of you sent, names. Yes, I'd love to be part of it. I captured those, but please, even if you did once before, send to me again or post in the chat. I'm going to save the chat. If you'd like to be part of that project, if you already served on that committee, I'm going to be reaching out to you anyway. So those that were part of it, Yeah, absolutely. Al, got you. I have you actually on my little marker board that sits right here beside me. So that's awesome. The other, and I'm going to ask Zach to pipe in about a project that we want to work on, the 2018 Reauthorization Act, which really was the creation and what drove us to create this UAS CTI. There was a list of training objectives and goals. And Zach, please join me and tell them a little bit about your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we found that as we've met together and discussed our programs, you know, we've come to the realization, or at least I certainly have, that outside of the Part 107 aspect of it, when you say that you went to any educational institution and you are now a drone pilot due to that training, it's all over the board. You know, we know you got your 107, and that's about all an employer can hang their hat on, right? There's no guarantee that you got a certain number of hours flying, or that you know how to properly maintain your aircraft. We'd all like to hope that that's the case. But on the CTI side, as a part of the requirements for being on the CTI side, there was, I believe, 7 requirements that were laid out. And, you know, obviously teaching the rules and regulations, teaching a little bit about maintenance and sensors and things like that. So my idea was, I thought it would be a good thing if we could maybe get a group together, and, you know, maybe someone's already got this curriculum that they are willing to share. I know the NCAT website has a lot of this stuff, but putting kind of a package curriculum together for folks that meets the needs of CTI or the requirements of CTI. So that way, we all know at least the basics outside of Part 107 of kind of what we're teaching. And of course, I can't sit here and require anybody to teach it. But, you know, I get asked all the time, you know, starting a drone program, you know, where do I start? What curriculum needs to be there? And then, of course, I sent them to the NCAT website, and they drowned a little bit because there's just a lot of stuff on there. And so being able, like I said, to put a package together that we can hand off to schools or any organization looking to start a drone training program, I thought it'd be a great idea, and it would also give us a little more continuity or standardization across the board. So that way, when a graduate says that, yes, you know, I've been to X institution and got a certificate or a degree in drone operations, there's a drone technician, it lets them know a little more than they've just gotten a 107, right? So if anybody be interested in a project like that, like I said, I'm not about reinventing the wheel. I think between this group, we all have stuff that meets the needs, and maybe it needs a little tweak or to take out your proprietary stuff, things like that. But would love to have you folks be a part of it. And I see lots of people in the chat saying they want to be a part of it, and I'm super happy to see that. Again, I will save the chat, and we will start going through those contacts there and start reaching out to folks here in the next week or two to at least get an initial meeting on the books. So thank you all very much. That's why I love this community. Just how quickly you guys were all ready to jump in on that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm saving the chat. You save the chat. We'll just chat together. All right. So Eastern region droning on is coming up April 27th through 29th. If you're part of that region, reach out to us. And then Exponential is coming up, which will be in May. Hope you'll be there. Last year, we actually got a group of all of you points of contact that were there that could for a dinner. It was on your own dime, by the way. I wish the FA could pay for it, but they're not going to do that. So join us for that. I'll pull that together again in Denver. And then also the UAS Symposium, we don't have a date yet, but I'm kind of exploring the idea because, you know, since we are all we've been come out of COVID, thank goodness, I thought we might actually have an opportunity for like co-locate meeting, get together at that. I know it was in Baltimore when it was in person. I'm pretty sure, Lena, are they going to have it?
Can I jump in here?
Please do.
So in previous years, the FAA UAS Symposium has been in Baltimore. It is at the convention center there. This year, we are still working on dates. We should have those hopefully by Friday or early next week, as well as the location. And so this year, what the plan is to have UAS and advanced air mobility. And because the UAS Symposium tends to be more commercial, we thought it could be a very good idea for the UAS CTI schools to come to talk to different aspects of the industry and to have your own in-person meeting along with the ones that are already happening. And so co-locating all of that. Is that something that you all would be interested in? Please let us know. Because if so, then we can definitely work with the symposium team to bring that together and make that happen. And we would be thrilled to have representatives from all of our schools there and actually have you all meet in person.
My biggest concern has been I want them to get that date and not push it too fast so that it'll give everybody plenty of time to plan. Alina, have they alluded to maybe what time? Will it be like summer? Do we have it all?
I'm not sure yet. Hopefully it'll be in the summer. I think that would work especially well for all of our UAS CTI folks. And I imagine that that would work well for a lot of industry folks as well. So as soon as I know more, I will let you know. So,
I think she's frozen. Zach, you want to take it?
She has been having issues on and off with that. I want to thank all of you for being here. I know we've got about 6 minutes left. But Diana and I and the rest of us are more than willing to stay on if you have any questions or if you want to talk some more. But thank you so much for being here. Diana, sorry I took over.
No, I'm glad you did. I've really had issues with Zoom today. We had an update, so I think that's, I probably just need to shut down and open back up again. But thank you, yes, for being here, and stay on if you'd like to talk with Luann, if you want to talk to Vern, with Al, because they're all still here. So please stay on. Yeah, and I hope I didn't lose the chat since I dropped, but Zach, you've been saving it, I hope.
I've been saving it as well. Joe actually has a really interesting question here in the chat. Under the new remote ID rules, what is the minimum range required for a drone to broadcast remote ID? And as a follow-up, how does a civilian receive the remote ID information broadcast out from the drone? I know that we've got a couple of really smart folks on here, so I'm going to call on Al Bruner or John Meehan. I thought I saw both of you on here.
Yeah, I'm going to punt a little bit because a lot of that is a bit to be determined on some of that. I know the AC is going to explain a lot of that. In terms of actual range, I couldn't give you a number.
Yeah, I don't think that, this is John. So I don't think they have established a minimum range, and that's all still being worked out. And as far as a member of the public receiving the information is going to be publicly available. So any drone that has to be registered is subject to RID. So don't forget that. So, but a lot of that still has to be worked out.
Yeah,
and I want to clarify the point on what information will be available. It is only going to be the remote ID number, the location of the oh my gosh, what is the word that I'm looking for?
The operator and the drone. Yeah, those are, put it this way, the civilian world is going to be very, very limited in what they are received. Right. There's a lot of privacy.
There will be no PII that is available to anybody.
There are two apps.
Except for the FAA.
There are two apps that advertise that you can read RID, and I've downloaded them, and nothing's popping up on them. So a lot of that still has to be sorted out, and it's going to be a market-driven solution, frankly.
So what I've seen is that people are concerned about somebody finding their location and confronting them. And my answer to that has always been, I tend to operate from places where I'm in plain sight and people can see me anyway. And this is North Carolina. If somebody was going to walk up on me and confront me with a gun, they were going to do it anyway, drone or not. So I think a lot of people are being excessively paranoid in this era of political polarization and the idea of their quote unquote personal information being out there. And it's like, if you're operating a car, people can see that you're operating a car and they can see your license plate. This is pretty much the same thing.
Absolutely. And that's what I really like in this too, right? There are obviously, road rage incidents, and we have gotten some of those with drones as well. But I mean, as far as people tracking, we all have cell phones, all of us, right? So and with cell phones, you actually get personal information, at least with remote ID. All of that is going to be hidden and kept close to the vest unless somebody is specifically requesting that information from the FAA, and then we can determine whether that is a good enough reason or not.
And being respectful of your time, how about let's kind of wrap up with closing comments or any other questions?
Yeah, I guess I'll just say thank you everyone for attending today. I really appreciate it. Thank you to our presenters. Great information for everybody. I really hope that folks look a little deeper into the FRIAs and deciding whether or not they need to be a CBO. And then of course looking farther into the aerial drones competition. Like I said, great way to get people into the door. Thank you all again for all the volunteers for the two projects that we discussed. Both the SOC code update and the curriculum project. So thank you all very much for that. And then Joe, I don't know if you're still on or not, but I'd take a look at the ASTM standard for remote ID, and I believe a lot of it was based on that. And there may be some information in there. I'm not sure. I have not read that line by line.
Do you know what ASTM number it is?
I can find it for you if you want to shoot me an email.
Okay, thanks.
I did see that Eugene had unmuted, and I want to make sure that we get to all of the questions. Did you have a question for us, Eugene? Matthews? No, okay. All right. Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Well, that was it. Just saying my goodbyes.
Have a great rest of the day and evening, everyone. We'll see you again soon. And we'll send a message to those who volunteered.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.